to speech 100. Good afternoon. My name is Robert. I will be doing the gender pay gap. First, what I would like everybody to do is close your eyes, and then imagine you get up in the morning. You see you're a woman. You see your husband. You see your kids. You give your kids a kiss. You get them food ready and everything, right? They go off to school, and then you go to work, right? You go to work, and you're working right next to all your men colleagues, right? And they're making more money than you. You're doing the same exact job, you have the same experience, everything like that. But they're making significantly different money. How does that make you feel? And you can go ahead and open your eyes. And just keep that in your mind as you go through this life. So there's two types of gender pay gaps. There's the uncontrolled and the controlled. And we'll go over what's inside of those in just a second. So the uncontrolled is basically, it doesn't factor in education, experience, how long you've been with the company, whether you have family, anything like that. It's basically you just take the mean women pay of the whole United States versus the mean men pay, and they make 78 cents for every dollar a man makes. And it's the most commonly known. You've heard President Obama, I remember seeing him in a speech talking about, women still making 78 cents to a dollar for a man. So it's the most commonly heard one. The next is controlled. And controlled takes into account experience, families, willingness to travel, pretty much everything that could encompass a worker. When you take into controlled, it puts it at 98 cents for every dollar, which is significantly better. And there still shows that there is a wage gap, but it's not as significant as the media likes to tell you. And then, yeah, it's almost never mentioned by anyone except for I've seen anti-feminists talk about it. The opportunity gap. So this is another thing where women typically do not get promoted at the same rate as men. It's a little bit slower, and then also they top out differently. Like women usually, when they're younger, they have better experience. They can usually get a little bit higher, maybe around the middle age. But once you get up to the older years, 40, 55, stuff like that, the opportunities kind of disappear. So there's 4 types of workers. There's an individual contributor, which is a person that doesn't manage employees. There is the managers who manage other employees. There are directors who manage the managers, and these are the types of positions in a normal workplace. And then there's the executives that usually top of their own, vice presidents, stuff like that. You can see here, women usually make up a lot of the workforce, and during the ages 30 to 44, they do typically scale with men quite well. But you notice here, as you get to late career, 45 and above, there's very few executives, very few directors. Most are in the manager or individual contributor level. So they don't get as much opportunity as men. And this is, you have to take into certain accounts, certain different ideas in the mind, whether there's more men that are pursuing jobs that have like huge executive positions, or whether women want to go into these positions. A lot of those things you got to factor in there. But there's no real research on that. Okay. Things that affect the gender pay gap. Industry domination. So there's certain industries like mining, gas, fracking, stuff like that, that are mainly men dominated, right? So that will affect pay gap. If a woman's in a mainly man industry, then they're probably going to get paid significantly less and not make it as high up the ladder. Job level. So job level is the thing we're just looking at, executives, directors, and basically just their opportunity. If you don't have a chance to become an executive, you're not going to get paid as much as men. State. So each state has, you can look at the states. One I looked up is the National Women's Law Center. They have a little list. They use the uncontrolled version, but for example, New York is the highest, has the least wage gap. They say 78 cents for the uncontrolled. New York is around 88%, 88 cents to a dollar. for uncontrolled. Natural disposition. So this is the thing I was talking about in the last one, whether, women prefer to stay home, take care of the family, or if they prefer to, if they want to be an executive, stuff like that. But there are things that affect that as well. People's perception of men and women are different, as well as what men and women want to do. Unemployment. So there's a huge punishment for if you're unemployed for a long period of time. It exponentially gets higher the longer you're gone. You get it's about 7% less offered to you when you come back after a year. And women tend to be the ones that take longer unemployment for things like child rearing, taking care of your kids, before they come back to the workplace, right? And it's often, somewhere around a year, 6 months, something like that. So it does affect their pay. Age, as you saw in the previous slide as well, women don't have the opportunity at the older ages to get up to, executive level, stuff like that. So age also plateaus at different levels. Women usually plateau their wage around 40, whereas men don't typically plateau with their wages until 55. Family, that's another factor. Actually, single women and single men with no kids and not married, there's almost zero pay gap. It's when you put in things like family and stuff like that, that's when things start to get disproportionately worse. Especially married women with kids, or single mothers with kids, they actually have the biggest disparity in the wage gap. And then it goes like for married men versus married women with kids, it's also a very large disparity. And then public perception. So this is a thing that stems from, a lot of people, like feminists will say the patriarchy or something like that. A lot of people will perceive the way a woman acts, like if they're aggressive, then people will say they're bossy or something like that. Whereas if a man's aggressive, they're saying he's a go-getter, something like that. So this is the public perception. There's a lot of different public perception on how men act and how women act and what men should do and what women should do. And so that will affect the pay gap a little bit. So when it comes down to it, should the wage gap be a matter of equality of opportunity or equality of outcome? So as we saw, not as many women executives, so that's opportunity, right? If you want to make equality of outcome, so you have to think about, do women have the same opportunities as men? And then equality of outcome. Okay. Equality of outcome is basically, if you want women to have the same, if we want as many executives as women as we do as men, then we're going to have to make quotas and things like that. And is that something you really want to institute? And do you think it's beneficial to society if we do that? So just a question for you to ponder. And that'll be everything for today. Is there any questions? Here's some of my references. So just so you all know, the things we covered today is the things that affect the wage gap, the different levels of opportunity that women can make, and then the two types of wage gaps, the controlled and uncontrolled. Thank you very much.